Hello and welcome to the second part of my blind Bleach review. In this part I will be talking about chapter 26 to chapter 70, the whole Agent of Shinigami arc. Thematically, there are basically 3 mini arcs in this video: the TV show guy coming into town, Ishida's introduction arc, and Rukia's kidnapping / the training arc. If you didn't know already by the words part 2, this is an ongoing series where I read the Bleach manga for the first time without having consumed anything from Bleach beforehand. I have a part 1 for the first 25 chapters, and it will probably be linked down in the bio or just appear now in the info card. So check that out if you want to. I also got a blind review series like this planned for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so if you don't want to miss that out and many other different type of videos, click that subscribe button, help me reach 200 subscribers, and also like the video. I'd say let's start talking about Bleach. The first story I cover in this video is probably the worst, but even that's not a bad story really. We start by a more filler atmosphere, and yeah, I realize this is the manga and therefore everything is canon, but it's really more slice of life stuff. Like, we see Kon trying to run away and find a nicer owner before returning since everybody treated him stupidly, which makes me realize this was probably the most Kon I got in those 45 chapters I read, which is really a shame, as I liked him when he was introduced, but so far he kinda got benched on the sidelines and his sole purpose seems to be the mascot of the show, like for example Chopper from One Piece. Anyway, so there is this TV show with apparently every 4th Japanese person watching it, which is wow, this is like really fucking high. Every 4th Japanese person. The audience is mainly like teenagers and kids, so that means like every second teenager or kid is watching this show, which is probably the most unrealistic thing about Bleach, like even considering the Shinigami stuff and all. But yeah, the show is about a ghost exorciser, and his next show is in Ichigo's city, so of course everyone shows up because all of them love the show, except of course Ichigo. Rukia doesn't understand a thing but pretends to like it, which is also really funny. In general, most of the Rukia comedic relief moments are really funny, like Kubo just knows how to write jokes most of the time. Anyway, the exorciser mistakenly turns a ghost into a hollow and Ichigo has to fight him. The hollow didn't really have any personality, and that's a trend I started to notice and hope which will get better. Most of the hollows don't really have personalities, and if they do, it's not that deep. Like, we had Orihime's brother and the hollow that killed Ichigo's mom, but that's it. So that's a negative point I have noticed. Kanonji, the exerciser dude, also is kinda funny, yes, but nothing more really this far. We will see more of him for sure, so I hope we got more than just comedic relief. To be totally fair though, we saw some character development from him in this arc as well, with him realizing he was wrong and shit, but I still hope to see more of him because they kinda teased him being with Ichigo, with him jokingly taking his as a student, so I just assume that he will continue to show up, and for that I wished him to have more character and more moments. I also like Ichigo in this arc, and I also really like the fact that he can read the situation and say stuff to cheer Kanonji up, like go and wave to them, they are waiting for you. It makes him more sympathetic as a character and is a really nice change of pace from all the I'm a naive guy who can't read the situation main characters. Some final words to this portion of the story. The jokes were hilarious, man. Yes, I have said it so many times so far, but there aren't many anime or manga that can make me laugh like Bleach. Also, I like the subtle character moment between Ichigo and Orihime at the start, where Orihime asks Ichigo why he came to the show despite hating it, and him responding that of course he would show up since his family likes the show and he wanted to go with them, and that this was normal for him. Orihime answers by stressing that it's true that it's normal for Ichigo. Really only a short and sweet moment, but a great way to give more perspective on what kind of a man Ichigo is, but also Orihime, since it's not normal for her family. So a great character moment. Also, we got some more information on the lore, with there being different types of hollows. So what we learned about different hollows is that some hollows aren't fully turned into hollows. It takes like 1 or 2 years for the ghosts turn into hollows, and when they finally turn into hollows, there are two types. Tsuki, who are people who still had hatred towards a human, and a Jibaku hollow, who are people that still had hatred towards a place and they can't leave the place, so they haunt it. Interesting concept for sure, and it definitely adds to the world and makes it more diverse than just having basic hollows. Overall, this was a very entertaining arc, but it was just a nice story in between, and I'd like something more high stakes soon, which it seems like I got, but still enjoyable to read, so I'ma give it a 6.5 out of 10. Next, we have the story of introducing Ishida and basically fighting against the mess he created and a giant ass hollow in the end. We get introduced to Ishida, who hates Shinigamis and seems to have a very high spiritual power. He can sense that Ichigo is a Shinigami and Rukia's true identity. He is a Quincy, and a Quincy is basically, and I don't know if I can call it like that, but a different profession than Shinigamis that fight against hollows as well. Now, the difference between Quincy's and Shinigamis is that Shinigamis release hollows and let them return to Soul Society after rescuing them. However, Quincy's want to exterminate them, so they eliminate them for good, and they won't return to Soul Society. This is interesting that there isn't just the Shinigamis, and from what I gathered, the Quincy's are humans and they are from our world rather than the Soul Society. Now, later this arc, we learn that what Quincy's do is bad, since they disrupt the balance of souls between the Soul Society and our world. And if they do that, spirits would come to our world and therefore our universe would collapse. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this was some bullshit reasoning, I thought. Why exactly does there have to be a balance of souls between the worlds? And why exactly do dead people return to the living world if that balance breaks? There's a lot left vague and unexplained, but alright, I will accept the fact, and I will just accept the fact that completely pulverizing hollows is bad. Now, the Soul Society told the Quincy's like a couple of times that they should stop doing what they are doing, but they didn't listen, so what's the only logical thing to do if someone doesn't listen to you? Yes, kill them all. So that's what the Soul Society did with the Quincy's, exterminate them, and after Rukia telling us at the start what a just organization the Shinigamis are and how noble and nice they are, the story is slowly but safely juxtaposing this perspective by showing us more and more fucked up shit the Shinigamis did. So basically Ishida is one of, if not the only Quincy alive. I think he was the only Quincy alive, and of course he hates Shinigamis, because who the fuck wouldn't in his case? So he projected all that onto Ichigo and challenged him into a battle of who can kill more hollows, for which he called countless hollows and endangered the entire city by doing so. So yeah, he also isn't the brightest, it seems. One cool thing though is that we get to see his weapon, and it's basically a spiritual arrow which he can summon by focusing all the spiritual energy flying around the air into a weapon, while Ichigo has to put the spiritual power inside him into his sword. And that's a cool concept and all. I just wanted to say, magic bow and arrow, cool. While all this happens, Rukia is at Urahara's place discussing some important stuff, so she is out cold, and after challenging Ichigo, we don't really see Ichigo even that much, but rather focus on 2 or let's say 4 people: Orihime, Chad, Tatsuki and Kari. We saw how those got attacked by the hollows, and because their spiritual power is higher than average person's spirit, and I really shouldn't have written the word spiritual, which I can't really pronounce that well into the scripts so many times. But yeah, we learn that they can see hollows, some more than the others, but still. So basically, they get attacked by the hollows and they awaken their powers. I mean, of course they needed powers of their own, because we couldn't just have Ichigo being the only one fighting, right? But what kind of powers they got surprised me. I originally thought they would just get Shinigami powers as well, but Chet got a robo arm or something like that, and Orihime can call small elves which can attack hollows, heal people and conjure up a shield. So offense, defense and healing, which is really cool and really useful. Now, these are still random powers, which don't really seem to have too much to do with the Shinigamis and with the Shinigami and Hollow power stuff, but it's anime, so whatever, dude has a robo arm. After fighting and winning, Urahara picks their unconscious bodies into his home and heals them. I will talk about Urahara later in the video, so for now I will only tease that he is the GOAT of these 50 characters that I read. He tells them about all the Shinigami stuff Ichigo can do and about Hollows and such, and goes with them to help Ichigo fighting all the Hollows. Now we are seeing how Ichigo and his people do. Basically, the Hollows are getting too much and they have to team up, and while Ishida struggled with the fort first, since, you know, all the Shinigami hate thing he has going, he still helps Ichigo after Ichigo proving him that he doesn't really care about all that stuff and that his grandfather would have wanted them to work together like a true shonen main character. Oh yeah, let's not skip over the grandfather. Ishida's master, his grandfather, taught him in the ways of fighting, and his ideal was for Shinigamis to hear out Quincy's and maybe even fight side by side, but the Shinigamis always declined. One day, 5 powerful Hollows showed up and his master went dealing with them, dying in the process. The Shinigamis, who have to come from Soul Society, took 2 hours after the Hollows appeared, so Ishida blamed them for not saving him, revealing that he didn't really care about all the exterminating history thing, which, okay, I guess you don't care about all your people getting wiped out, but we move on. As I said, Ichigo reminds him what his master wanted in the first place, and together they fight the Hollows. So far, I like Ishida's character, because he is stupid, and by stupid I mean flawed. All this was basically his fault, but that's okay, because it makes him more humane, as he makes mistakes like a human. Like a human he basically is, unlike the Shinigamis, which maybe is written to be just this, him being a flawed character like a human, in contrast to the Shinigamis, but maybe I'm just reading too much into it. They beat all the Hollows and live happily after. No, just kidding, because holy shit, there's a crack in the sky. All the Hollows start praying towards the creature that comes out of there, and they point out how this resembles praying, so my theory is that's like the boss Hollow and that there are ranks in the Hollow hierarchy. So basically, this weird ass looking giant Hollow comes out, and for whatever reason, I found it really hilarious that he has normal human legs, like Ichigo just cuts his legs, and it looked so funny, but that's not important. Important is his name, and his name is Menos Grande, because what else would his name be? Now, basically, they wouldn't really have a chance because a special force is needed to take care of Hollows like Menos Grande, but as the power system of Ichigo and Ishida are like they are, one pulling the energy from outside and one from the inside, they can power up Ishida's arrow by him touching Ichigo, and that sounded really wrong. Oh, and also this Hollow has a zero, which is a short and stupid name for a beam out of his mouth. So he fires that off after Ichigo and Ishida manage to hit him, but Ichigo deflects that right back to him, making a hole in his body and making him retreat. You could say, now he really is a Hollow. I'm sorry. Now, this is one of the cases of, if he wasn't the main character, he would be dead. It is said that Ichigo has so much natural energy in him that he can just do that, so I guess it's fine, but really it's a bit lazy making your main character overflown with power, which he has to learn to control. But if he needs it, he can pull himself together and save the day. Bleach is from way back though, so it's fine for them to use it, because it wasn't so overused in like 2000 or whenever Bleach appeared. The Hollow runs away and Ichigo is overflowing with energy and would explode if nothing is done. We have Ishida, who can take energy from outside and fire it off, so that's what he does, taking the power from Ichigo and firing it out, damaging his own hands in the process, kinda redeeming himself and showing character development, and realizing he was blinded by madness. 7 out of 10, this part was better than the first section. We got more spotlight on some side characters, it gave the world more depth, and it was just enjoyable to read. Now, let's move on to the final section of what I cover in this video, and the best section in my humble opinion. We start by seeing them go to school again, but the most important stuff is that Uraha's only relative, a freaking cat, meets him to tell him they came, playing the pronoun game by not implying who they are. Afterwards, we see Rukia leaving Ichigo's house with a note left, saying thanks for everything, and on her way, she gets spotted by these two characters we never met before. One of them is a hunter from Soul Society, and I ask myself, what is a hunter in Soul Society? Because don't Shinigamis hunt hollows? So what is a hunter hunting? Anyways, his name is Renji, and the other person is Rukia's older brother, and he reveals that they are from a noble clan and they came to capture Rukia, who has been a disgrace to her clan, and they are looking for the guy who stole her Shinigami powers. So basically Ichigo. Now, maybe this is unfair to say, but the further I read Bleach, the more I realize how much modern manga were inspired by it. Obviously, in my last video, I pointed out the parallels to Jujutsu Kaisen, and now it's Black Clover's turn. The brother that views his sister as a shame of his noble clan, obviously also being used in Noel's character. Anyway, but that's just something I noticed. So, of course, Ichigo finds out and rushes to help her, and while he struggles against Renji, he still manages to stay on his feet, but Rukia's brother had enough and gave him a fatal injury. Again, we get to lazy writing, and sorry that I have to criticize Kubo a bit more than I did in the last video. Like, I still like many things in Bleach, but it also has flaws. So Ichigo lays there, half dead, and Rukia puts in this I don't care about him anymore, he isn't even worth killing, let's just go, I act. And it actually works. Like, wasn't this guy the guy who you thought stole Rukia's Shinigami powers? A sin hard enough that you essentially wanted him dead, but instead they are like, well, he basically is dying anyways, so let's just leave him there, and of course he doesn't die. Like, that's a bad solution and would never happen in real life. The Shinigamis leave the Soul Society, informing Ichigo that Rukia will be executed. And before Ichigo dies, he gets rescued by none other than the mad-lad Urahara. Now, first of all, dude, Kubo's paneling, and especially when it comes to Urahara, is so freaking cool. But in general, Urahara is just a cool character, and we know so little about him. He kinda reminds me of Shanks, and I'm sorry if my comparing to One Piece is annoying, I can't help it. Whatever. Urahara, of course, saves Ichigo's life, and now we start with a training arc. Rukia's execution will be in roughly a month, they figure, since that's what it always takes for the Soul Society to execute people. So they plan 10 days for training and some more days for the gate to Soul Society to even open. Is this totally the meme where a main character who trained for 10 days will beat some guy who trained his entire life? Probably. But who cares, it's anime. Besides Ichigo going into training, we see the relative of Urahara, yes, the cat, going into training with Chad and Orihime, and we see Ishida going into training himself, and at first he is like, no, I'm not training to save Rukia and all, but come on, we all know that he will. Anyway, each free challenge training starts, and honestly, his interactions with Urahara were just so funny. Dude, like he is currently really serious rival to Rukia for a spot of my favorite character of Bleach. Maybe he even already took it. First, since Rukia's brother, whose name is Byakuya, but I never can remember that, took Ichigo's, or more likely Rukia's Shinigami powers, we see Urahara separating his body and his normal spirit in non-Shinigami form. The first task is to beat the girl who always is with him, and while Ichigo fails, the original task was for him to get used to his new form. So we go on to challenge 2. We also see Hartley gets outclassed by Hair, so I'm excited to see what those kids can do, and even how strong Urahara himself is, if those kids are this good. For the second task, Ichigo gets sent into a hole, but before his chain of fate gets broken by Urahara, which would eventually make him a hollow, but since that process would take years, he gets sent into this hole, which speeds things up to only 3 days. And his objective is to become a Shinigami and climb up the hole with his hands tied up, before turning into a hollow. Ichigo gets into a dreamlike state, where he meets someone who claims he knows Ichigo well, but Ichigo doesn't know him. By the discussion they have, we can figure out that it's his sword talking to him. Renji also remarked that he won't get beaten by a guy who didn't even know how his sword was called, so that's probably the moment when his sword tells him his name. Before he can do that though, Ichigo starts turning into a hollow and gets taken out of the hole. Before fully transforming, he stops the process and now has the clothes of a Shinigami and the mask of a hollow, which looks really cool and is an interesting concept to make him half hollow and half Shinigami. This weirdly doesn't seem to be what they are going for just yet though, so he breaks his mask and becomes a Shinigami, although half of the mask still remains next to his face, so I'm excited to find out what that means. After passing the second challenge, Ichigo has as much time as he wants to cut Urahara's head, but of course, being the guy he is, he says he will do it in only 5 minutes, and of course, then Urahara outclasses him hard. In the fight, Urahara breaks his sword and Ichigo is on the brink of losing, but then his sword, like his other sword, which talked to him in the dreamlike state, tells him his name, which is Kitsuki, and with that he cuts Urahara's sword, therefore ending the training. All of them, and while Ichigo ended his training, his friends also ended their training. And the only thing left is to wait for the gates to open for them to go to Soul Society. Let's check what's been going on with Rukia and on her side though. We get to know that Rukia definitely will be executed in 30 days because her brother encouraged the judges who dealt with her to do so, and Jesus Christ, what a nice brother. At least Renji seems a bit nicer, showing that he cares for her a bit. We also get introduced to different characters from different teams, meaning the Shinigamis have different teams, kinda like Naruto. Some random and weird looking creature is shown watching Rukia's past actions through a screen, and the guy who he talks with brought a weird worm he was asking for, and at this point I am very confused who or what are these people and what are they doing. They then bring in Rukia's, or at least her body, into a lab. They talk about who made this, not clarifying what this is, but I assume they are talking about Rukia's human body she used on Earth, and they mention whoever made it did it so good he had to be exiled from Soul Society. And the next panel we cut to Urahara, implying that he made it. No one is implying that he made it. By the next panel directly being Urahara, I think Kubo implied that he did it. And then I realized we don't really know anything about him yet. Like, who is he? Where is he from? Is he a human or is he from Soul Society even? He is very mysteriously kept until now. And yeah, I said it's a bit like Shanks, maybe a bit more mysteriously kept, but I really like it and they are building up his character very well and I hope they deliver. Anyway, we cut to the gang having some free time, and now I want to talk about something minor. This kind of humor. This panel where they imply the dad being a creep towards his own fucking daughters. Why is this necessary? This is just weird and makes his character worse. And yes, I know this was just a joke and they aren't serious, but still, it is a bad aftertaste, man. Like, the dad has a nice character moment with Ichigo giving him his mother's lucky charm afterwards, but because of moments like this, and this isn't a one-time thing either, I kinda dislike the character. Like, who actually thinks this is funny? This isn't... I guess humor is subjective, but this isn't really funny, man. Enough dad talking though. So Urahara informs them that the portal is now open, and they all come, and oh no, who could have guessed, Ishida also came. Anyways, Urahara stands in front of the end portal looking thing and explains that they only have 4 minutes to go through that portal or you will be locked in there forever. They enter and Urahara is not joining, which surprised me for a bit, but that does make it more likely that he has been exiled from Soul Society and can't return there. Also saw Kon after like 20 chapters for the first time, only for him to not join them. Incredible. That's it though. We ended here as the arc ends. Overall, I like this section really much. Let's give it an 8 out of 10. And it really made me excited to see what's coming next. Because this was probably just the build-up for the rescue mission we are going into next. So, what are my overall thoughts on these past 50 chapters though? I liked it. We got more lore, we got longer arcs, which I think a long story like Bleach needs, and I got hyped up for the rescue mission. Lastly, I can't stress enough how funny this manga is. Anyways, So far, Bleach is a 7.5 out of 10 for me. Maybe you could give it an 8. Maybe you could give... Nah, it didn't deserve a 7, but it's not at an 8 there, just there yet for me. But you could definitely make a case why it deserves an 8 out of 10. And of course, I criticized Bleach a lot in this video, but I still enjoyed reading it, and I will continue doing so and talking about it in the next part. So if you like this video, you know the drill. Like, subscribe to not miss the next video, and show me what you thought about my thoughts or how you like Bleach up until now in general in the comment sections. This video in itself is probably gonna be a very long one, so without further ado, bye!